All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, we've had a little bit of issues when we came on the program. So we've been using the same Zoom link for 2 years for this class. Well, some of the issue has been that it kind of got corrupted. Actually, the last time we did a training, it kind of corrupted. So we figured it out again. What it basically was happening is it was, if you registered for this class, it pulled registration for like over 400 people that we've had in the past, and we couldn't get it fixed. And it kept on pulling people that were not really in the class. So we had to redo our Zoom link. So some people thought that the class was canceled. It's not canceled. The class this afternoon, again, these are not canceled. We always have the most current training link in the training calendar, but we did have to change our Zoom link because it's just, we've been using this link for so long. It just kind of got corrupted with Zoom. It's kind of interesting. I mean, I can see where it happens. Technology is great, but there can be a lot of issues with technology. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go through your child nutrition contact. Who do you contact? Now, I don't really talk about, again, at-risk pages in here because I talk about that at the at-risk training. So I mostly with this is I talk about the center training manual and the adult day manual. So at risk, you have your own manual, but again, I refer to pages. You have a lot of the same pages that I will be referring to. It's just your page numbers will be different than at the center, because the center manual is about 250 pages. I think the at-risk one and adult one is closer to 200. But just an FYI, I don't put at-risk pages are A pages, and I don't have any adults on here. So anything that I talk about with adult daycares, I'm gonna kind of breeze over that. An adult daycare, what that is. So if I ever talk about anything with adults, what that means is we have actual daycare centers that are only for adults. And the only way those participants can participate is if they're disabled over the age of 21 or if they are over the age of 65. So when I refer to adults, I'm not talking about the adults that are at your center that may that help you with the program. When I refer of feeding adults, I refer to our adult daycare, but again, we have none on here today. So anytime you see anything with adult, that is what I'm referring to, but I will try to skim over it. Sherry did send out the slides. If you want the handouts to this as well, it's also in the resource library. It is under the section training slides and handouts. So you can go out there at any time to get those handouts. So you can contact our office at any time. You can also contact your program specialist. We don't have anybody new on here, so you all know who that is. So we used to call them consultants, but the title doesn't fit with their actual job description. So I've had some people join since I've started. So I just want to make sure, do I have any adult daycares on here? And you can put yes in the chat, or you can unmute yourself, because when I started, nobody on here was an adult daycare. So I'm not going to talk about adult daycares. I just want to make sure, because I hate for you to come to this training and then we don't talk about, okay, so we do have an adult daycare. Okay, so I will talk about adult daycares. Okay, thanks for letting me know, because I was going to go over that. Okay, so adult daycares, when I refer to anything, we're going to have page number AD. This will go with your manual. And then a regular center, it will be just the regular page number. Again, you can contact your specialist. So do I have anybody, since I've had people come on, do I have anybody new on here? Because if you're not new, I'm not going to treat people like they're new. Maybe I should, let me just do the poll again. Oh, let me just do the poll. Let me see if it'll let me do the poll again. Relaunch poll. Okay. Go ahead. So if you can, please answer this. This helps me know what I need to cover during this training. So if you're on, because we've had several people join on, you could let me know what entity you are. I know I have daycares. I know I have an at-risk program, I believe. Okay, if you could please, someone fill out the poll. you're watching, okay. To make sure. Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, I just need to make sure if you're new or not. And then who is my audience? Okay, so I have a little bit of everybody on today. So we're going to go till noon. So you can always call our office for questions if you ever have any questions. So the person, your program specialist, is your consultant. They're the ones that come out and do your review. But we did change their name. They're no longer what we call a consultant. They're a program specialist, which I will get confused and I will say consultant because I was one for 10.5 years. So it's a hard term to change. That is the person that knows this book inside and out. That's also the person, again, that comes and does your review. Now, you can always call us for questions as well. The thing is with us in the state agency, there's only a couple of us, very few of us that have been in the field or that we know this manual very, very well. The rest of the people in the state office, so we can help answer some questions. But a lot of the people in the state agency, what they will do is they're the ones that handle your claim and your application and that kind of thing. So just to kind of give you an idea of where to send your question to. Also, you can contact anybody in the State Department of Education. You can use the first name and last name. As you can see in my video, my name is Kendra Mervelt. I am the Director of Training. So if you have any questions, again, you can contact me using my first name last name at sde.ok.gov. Now, you can contact your program specialist at any time for technical assistance. And so what technical assistance is if you're like, I'm not sure we're doing our paperwork correctly, or I would just like you to come out and kind of look at my records, contact them. Now, they may not be able to come out tomorrow, but because we do have to have our schedules lined up 2 weeks in advance, but there's always cancellations, or, you know, they can get you in after kind of that 2 weeks. Right now, we are in the middle of school reviews. That takes precedence because schools do get out in May. So we have to get all of our school reviews done before they can do anything else. So just kind of letting you know how our schedules kind of work. So sometimes we can get things in quickly, sometimes we cannot, and it's just due to scheduling conflict. So don't think if you call today, they can come out this afternoon. I mean, they might be able to come out this afternoon if something got canceled, but you just may have to give them a couple weeks to come out. As a reminder, we do unannounced reviews every year. Like when it comes to, so I have an at-risk on here. I'm not quite sure if you're a school or not, but our school reviews are not unannounced just because they're so large and USDA has to come with us and all this kind of stuff, which they will come with us with Cacfp. But we were one of the only states for a very long time that did our reviews announced, and it's been at least 5 years since we've done anything. Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Since it's been at least, gosh, 5 or so years since we've done an announced review. So all of our CACF reviews are unannounced. We did put your notification letter in your manuals. So every manual has the notification letter. We do our reviews on a 3-year cycle. So what that means, schools are on a 5-year cycle now. Okay, perfect. April 9th, 2019. So all of our school reviews are now on a 5-year cycle, which was the old way of doing things. Our CACFP side is on a 3-year cycle. What that means is we cannot go more than 3 years with reviewing you. You can get reviewed every 1 to 2 to 3 years. And usually how it works is if you were SD, seriously deficient, you had a review that did not go very well. It had a lot of findings and you're considered SD. If you're SD, you will be reviewed in the next year. The reason I say every 2 to 3 years is because sometimes we don't even know. On the CACFP side, we are required to review 34% of the daycare centers or anybody on CACFP. So what happens is, and this has happened to me every year when I was in the field, is I would go out, I'd have my list of reviews that I was going to do, and then I'd show up to a daycare to go do their review, and they'd be closed permanently. And so I am still required, even though that's who I planned on reviewing, even though they are closed permanently, I have to choose somebody else to do that review. So, because I have to do a minimum of 34%, it's a rule, or we get in trouble with USDA. So when it's like, well, you were here 3 years and now you're coming every 2 years, we don't know, but we can't let your review go past 3 years, which we don't have anybody new, so I won't talk about that. As a reminder for CACFP that your records have to be readily available at all times. When we come out to do review, you have now make sure wherever your records are. So what I mean by that is if you're multi-sided, you have multiple sites, and you put in the application and agreement that you keep all your records here. All your daily information should still be at the site, but once they're going to claim, you may keep all your records at the main site or a central office or something like that. So that's where we're going to go to go and look at your records, is wherever you state that your information is at in your application agreement. Again, they have to be readily available at all times. If we show up and they're not readily available, if you know that you're going to be gone, say you know that you're going to go to a conference, or your daughter has a gymnastics meet in July out of town or out of state, let your consultant know, let your program specialist know, because we don't want to come, honestly, if you're not going to be there. But again, our schedules are kind of tight. We have to have our stuff, planned out in advance. So if you can just email your program specialist, like, hey, I'm not going to be here on these dates. We won't come on those dates. We'll try not to come. But if we don't know that you're gone and we show up, then somebody has to have access to those records to get them to us. So just kind of an FYI on that. And in here, in your manuals, under your program specialist information, it does give you their email address. It also gives you their phone number if you don't have it. Their phone numbers are cell phones, so you can text them. Again, you can email. And to be honest, when I was in the field, a lot of us did like if you would email us or text us over calling. And the reason I say that is because, say I'm at a daycare center and I'm talking with somebody and then they get up to go take a phone call real quick. Well, I can easily look at my text or my email and maybe do a quick response. So everybody's a little bit different. Everybody does have field office 1 day a week. So sometimes may take a little bit longer for them, but usually 1 day a week they are in field office, and that's when they are to respond. So if you don't hear from somebody for a day or two, it gets very busy when we're in the field. So sometimes we may not be able to respond until usually our field office days are on Fridays. So just be patient if you don't hear anything right away, but a lot of them are really good about responding very quickly. Now, in CACFP, really in all of our programs, we are a federal program. So our federal fiscal year is October 1st to September 30th. Now, when you're filling out the budget part of the application, or when we ask for information for your profit loss, we do need that based on your fiscal year for your entity. A lot of you might be January to December. If we have a school, so yours is July 1, June 30th. So whatever your fiscal year is, that's what we need when it comes to profit loss information and your budget. And when I talk about profit loss, I'm like talking about like your revenue expenditures. So we ask to see that for the whole, either child nutrition or your CACFP, or for your entire entity. It just depends upon what facility you're with. Now, I can't talk about this page enough. So this page right here, this is the website that you go to fill out the application and agreement, to go to the claims. Make sure that you are, if you're registered for this training in the training calendar, that's how you get credit. We do not send out certificates. Your information, we keep it, and I'll show you here in just a moment where we keep that at in the application and agreement area. But this website right here also takes you to our resource library. You do not have to have login access to be able to go to the resource library. The resource library is where we keep everything. We keep everything there, and it's always up to date. Right now, I will tell you the center training manual is not out there. And the reason why is because I updated it. And then the one that's out there is from last year. That was out there, so I deleted it. What happened was I was making some updates to this. And as we do periodically, just so it's always up to date, it's a lot less work at the end of the year. And my program will not print it out. at all. It will not go into a PDF. So we've been working on this for over a month. It's very frustrating, but it will be up there soon. That's the only thing that's not in there, but we keep all of our interactive forms. We keep all of our manuals. We keep interactive worksheets. Those are the ones that are computer-based that you can type into. We keep the food buying guide, slides and handouts, anything that you can think of, we keep it out there. We have, in the last couple of years, we have made a lot of different sections. We now have a Spanish section. So anything that we have in Spanish is in that section. What also is, we found trainings and stuff from USDA. We put that in there as well. And then we did find out very recently that any of our trainings that we have in OSDE Connect, that it will be in English, but we can get, we have steps to how you can put it in a Spanish subtitle, in a Spanish closed captioning. So we have some exciting things there. So if you do have anybody that does need anything in Spanish, we have it both on the school side and Cacfp. Cacfp has a lot more information from USDA regarding anything in Spanish, but we do have that section out there. So just kind of, again, with your application and agreement, just make sure you go out there and update as changes occur. It's actually very, very important that you do that, especially with the budget. This is what we go by when we come out. So let's just say, for an example too, that you do something during the school year, you have your time set, but then you change your times whenever school is out and you have a lot of the school age kids. If you do that, you need to update your application and agreement. This is what we go by. We had a lot of issues with this during COVID, and you have to be doing what your application and agreement says. You can change it at any time. Go in there and make changes at any time. There, you can make as many changes as you want. It has to be up to date. If we come out to do a review and it's not up to date, it is a finding on the review. And it's different than the school side. So with the school side, you have to call us, we have to unlock it, you have to tell us again, and then we lock it back. On the Cacfp side, you just go out there and make the changes, but we do recommend that you contact us because it won't let you claim unless we have to reapprove it, which is fine. But I would have you just contact us, be like, I changed this. Can you go out there and approve or look at my application and approve it? Your budget, it's required for Cacfp to have a budget. Now on our school side, you'll be very happy to know that we did find some regulations very recently that a school will no longer in the future have to submit an actual budget with us because of several reasons. So it's going to get easier for you in the future because you have to do so many other things in the way that you have to do OCAS and everything else. You'll still have to fill out a couple of forms, but you won't have to necessarily do the budget in the future. The budget is projected for the year of what you think. It always needs to reflect what you're doing. So if you, like at the beginning of the year, let's say you thought you're going to spend $10,000 on food, and now because of inflation, you're going to be spending $15,000 on food. You need to go in there and update that. What we're going to have to end up doing, and I actually talked to Cassie about this yesterday, is at the end of the year, before we can renew your application, is you're going to have to send us some financial information to look at. It's just something that's going to be, it's needed to be required for a long time. But it's just something that we've been inching slowly towards. We were doing the budget stuff first, and then we're inching to do other things. So the budget is based off of your fiscal year, not our fiscal year. And a lot of you have approved applications. That's why I really haven't been going over all that kind of stuff. But again, if you need help with your budget, how to fill it out, Cassie every month does a training on application. And then also we have a 1-hour YouTube video that you can go to in the financial section or the financial form section in the resource library. Now, as a reminder, because again, maybe, sorry, I feel like I'm losing my voice. So let's just say when we come out to do a review, everything that you have that you're stating that you're spending on child nutrition, it has to be in your budget. We have to approve it. So in your budget, it will have your budget information. And I will tell you too, we're working on the budget to make it a little bit easier as well for next year for everybody else. So it will be easier for everybody. It's a little too much. And we knew that. We knew it was going to be too much we didn't have time to change it in the time frame we had with other changes that we were required to do. So for everybody, it's going to get a little bit easier. And we are wanting to do, and I'll probably end up doing it, a 1-hour training on the financial side. So just be cognizant. We're trying to make life a little bit easier. We really do understand and we really do get it. And we did that. We knew that going into this year. It's just, we did not have time. Time has gotten the best of us, and with COVID and everything else. So again, when we approve something, it's going to be in the last column. You have to put everything that you paid for in your institution in the institution column, and then what you're spending on Cacfp in the second column, and then we approve it in the third. There are some things that you put in there that we may need to see more information on to approve it or to validate it. So let's just say, for an example, your oven goes out at your center and you buy a new oven. Well, and you are just a daycare center, you don't have any other facilities, it's only used for Cacfp purposes. You can buy that oven and then put it in your budget that you spent child nutrition dollars on that oven. But you just has to be in you can't charge it off unless it's in your budget and we approve it. So you can do that. And again, if you have labor, even if you're not charging any labor off to Cacfp, you still have to put the entire center's labor in the institution section. We have to have that for other purposes. There's two things that we check, and I'm going to be telling you more about the financial stuff here in just a moment, why it's so important for you to do that. We did add some forms this year to this manual. You think I'm holding it upside down? Maybe not. So we did add some forms to this manual. If you, after your application has been approved, if you need to change your meal times, change your meal service, and maybe you only had like 20 kids, but now you changed your license capacity and now you have 50 kids, you do need to fill out this meal changing form and send it to us before we can approve your application. So you can go in your application and change it, but we have to have this form, this piece of paper, before we can approve it. If you're multi-sited, or if you want to add sites, or if you only have one feeding site, or if you only have one daycare center, you have to do what we have an add and remove site. And then we also have what's called the certificate of authority. And that is just giving somebody a username and password. You can give somebody just a username and password just to be able to go into the training calendar, and they don't have access to anything else. That is in the resource library. You have to fill out the certificate of authority, send it in with a color copy photo ID, state ID, federal ID, whatever you have, just a color copy photo of that ID, and then we can set them up with the username and password. Now, this is the website that I was referring to. Again, this is where you come to, you log in, and this is where you go to your application and agreement. And then, let me make sure. And then also, this is where you go to do claims, and you have to log in to get claims access, application and agreement, and the training calendar. But no one has to have access to get to the resource library. Again, this is where we keep all of our documents. Now, this is from last year. We did put our slides. I may have still put the slides in the adult, but I try to put all of our slides in the training area so people know. We do a lot of trainings. I probably do just with Cacfp at least 5 trainings a month in Cacfp alone. We have some things that are for all programs, for schools, summer daycare. So always go to the training calendar. We try to have it 2 months. I actually emailed Sherry just a moment ago. We're going to be putting May out there. So we'll have April, we have March, April, and then May. Usually when March hits, I'll try to put May stuff out there so you can see what we do have available. Now, this is when you log in on the application side. I just draw your attention to the thing. We have what's called the business maintenance page. Now, this is something that did change this year. And up here is where we put the owner, executive director, or superintendent. So if that changes, you need to contact our office to let us know. This is for anybody else. You can have as many authorized reps as you want. When you fill out that form, you tell us what they can and cannot have access to. And then you can edit and delete this information, but you cannot at this top part. Now, oops, next slide. Okay, so this is at the, my mouse is going a little crazy today. Okay, So once you scroll down past that, this is where you plug in your institution's fiscal year. You can change this. So make sure it is your fiscal year. If it says October to September, unless you're a federal entity, it won't normally be the case. So just make sure this says either January, December, whatever your fiscal year is for your entity. Now, we've talked about office staff. Everybody has a person in the office that is assigned to their application. Now, we've had some changes in our office recently. Becky Gray, who's on our school side, she took the director of director of schools position a couple weeks ago. We did fill Becky's position, which is Karen Davis. So Karen was on the CACFP side, but Karen has been working in schools for 25 years. So she's happy to be back on the school side. So we had Jennifer Pryor, Lisa King, and then we will have a new hire. So it will be one of those three names that will be right there. And then your field staff right here is the person that comes out to do your review. They're the ones that are listed in here. So that way you can always contact that person is the one that approves your application. Sometimes we have to have help during renewals, but they're the one that's in charge of your application. So you can contact them at all times and your claim. They're kind of in charge of all that. So you have the one person that you can contact. And at the very bottom, so if you did register for this course in the training calendar, it's already going to show this course up down here. Now, eventually we do want it to show your name because again, we could have like multiple people from the same facility that sign up for the same class, but we do want it to have your name. And on our bucket list, you'll click on this and it will give you a certificate after. But because we have very few people on this course, Sherry will probably get it tomorrow. If not, we always say give us a week. But once you attend, we have to pull our Zoom information and all that. Once we deem that you were on enough time, you came to the training, we will mark this as checked and it means that you attended. So if it's blank, if it stays blank, then that means, or just there's no check mark in there. If it stays that way for a long time, over a week, then that means you did not attend the course. And it could be just because you forgot to sign up in the training calendar. Sometimes people will sign in the training calendar as Bob Smith, but then whenever you're in the, when you registered in the training calendar, you're Betty Sue. So we don't know that Bob Smith and Betty Sue are the same person. So it has to be kind of the same name. But if you ever have questions, Sherry is the one that handles this. You can always contact her for more information. And what I cannot stress enough is on this program, this is a manual. And this manual, again, it does not have everything in it. So between this and what's on the screen, that is your agreement with us. A lot of times what happens is people will go to the application and agreement. They'll click on it, scroll down, hit next page, scroll down, put the date in and hit submit. Really, you need to be looking at what you're agreeing to be on this program. This document is a 21-page document when I print it out. Like the very first thing in here is be financially viable, administratively capable, and have effective internal controls to ensure program accountability. This stuff is not new. This has always been the number one thing in this application and agreement, probably since before I started. And I've been here for almost 14 years. So some of this stuff, always go out there and just at least skim about what you're agreeing to be on this program. Okay, so now we're going to start getting into the manual. I know this front part takes a long time, but it's just we've added so much has changed with our office. Between so many staff changes, we've had organizational changes, we've had program changes. Like for instance, with this. So we get audited by state auditors and we get audited by USDA. So 2 years ago, we've always been audited by state auditors, but 2 years ago, they would ask for this, but they'd ask the center for it. 2 years ago, the state auditors told us if we come out to do a review at your place, your center, your school, if you're on child nutrition and we come out to do a review, we are to get copies of every single piece of paperwork that we look at during that review. And it can be scanned copies, it can be paper copies. Now this has been going on, we're going on, I think year 3. 2 or 3, I'm getting really confused, but this has been going on now for a little bit. So just so you're aware, this is not, it's not what we want. If you don't give this to us, it's a finding on us from the auditors. So we have to have a copy of this. Again, you can scan it to us. We have secure places how you can scan it. It can be paper copies. If you do paper copies, people ask who's responsible for paying for it. It is the center's responsibility of being on the program. So I just want to let you know it's not something that we're asking for. It is the state auditors. So let's now get into the manual. So this starts in the manual under the financial management section. Same with our at-risk. Everything is still under the same sections. Again, we have everybody has a financial management section in their manual, their training manual. So all institutions to participate on this program, you must be financially viable, capable, and accountable to be on this program. It's always been required from USDA. We as a state have not done the best job of looking at this, but we are now, and we're required to. And we've had a plan with USDA as our steps to moving towards doing this. I didn't actually realize we were going to put the VCA in the application and agreement this year. I knew it was going to happen. The last 2 years, we also have a paper documentation called a VCA, and I'll let you know who has to do that. What this means is to be able to participate in the program, your entity should be financially viable. So what that means is you do not need our funds to operate our program. The actual purpose, people get very confused. The actual purpose of being on this program is that this gives you more funds to feed better quality of food. That's the purpose of the program. And the reason you need to be financially viable is because they don't want you can't make money on the federal government, and they want to ensure that you have accountability and integrity. And so you have to have enough funds to where you can operate in case there's in case there's interruption in pay. And there has been. The government has shut down a couple of times. I've been on staff when this has happened where we couldn't pay. And it's not Oklahoma, it's the entire United States of America, plus the Virgin Islands, plus Guam, plus America Samoa. Anybody that's in American territory has this program. You have to be capable. You have to be able to have adequate staff and be able to stay and manage operations to be in compliance. And you also have to have program accountability, meaning you can do your program oversight by doing either monitoring visits, your training, which is required, that the costs for the program are authorized, that you keep up with the record keeping aspect. We will look at VCA. We will keep monitoring it as long as you're on CACFP. And that's a big reason for the budget. That's a big reason why we ask to see financial documentation, because when we come out to do, there's a question on the review that has been on the review since I have been with child nutrition, and that's been at least 14 years. So I know it's been longer than that. There's always been a question about the financial viability came about 5 years ago. And then there's one about being nonprofit, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. So financial viability, what that means again, is you do not need our money. You can function without our funds. So when we come out to do a review, we will ask to see certain documentation. Now, you had to do a VCA in the application, but if you're brand new trying to come onto our program because you haven't filled out an application yet, or if you were SD, meaning last year you had a review that had several errors and you're now coming onto the program, you have to fill out the VCA document. And it's a paper document. It's 12 pages. And you have to send in supporting documentation, bank statements, organization chart. You have to send in other things. So you have the VCA in the application, but you would also have to do this VCA and submit. You have to submit documentation with that. So it doesn't matter what program you're on. This financial stuff is for everybody. Now, when we come out to do a review, we ask to see stuff for profit loss. Now, and this should be over your entire institution. But again, if you're a school, we'll look at just child nutrition. If say you're part of an Air Force base, or you're part of a hospital, or you're part of a tribe and you have a daycare on there, we're not going to ask to see the entire tribe's financials. We're going to ask to see the daycare side. So don't worry about that. because some people are like, well, I'm part of a hospital. We won't see the whole hospital. We'll just see the daycare side of the hospital. We have to see all that. So some of the things that you can give us is a year-to-date report, or they call it a profit loss, or maybe a P&L. We'll take a revenue and expenditure report. That's what we ask for schools. If maybe you have an accountant, we'll use whatever you get from an accountant. If you use QuickBooks, any report you can pull from that. Any report that you have that you use to close out your books at the end of the year. Now, this document can be an annual document, a monthly, a semester, a quarterly, just however you have it. Like with schools, when we go out, they can pull that information when we're there. Now, maybe you have an accountant and they give you something quarterly. We'll take what you have the last quarter. Maybe you, whatever your information you have it by year. We'll take whatever the last thing that you have. So we're not stating, we will need this when we come out to do a review. We're not saying that this is going to be readily available, but someone just needs to know that we will need this, and who do we need to go and talk to get this information. Maybe, again, you're part of a tribe. We'll need to go talk to your financial person to get this information. Do we have, so just a quick brief, this is going to be very few people, but so we have what's called nonprofit daycares and for-profit daycares. And if you're for-profit, if you're a daycare that is for-profit and you receive more than $750,000 in federal funds, then you will get an audit from an outside auditor as well every year that we do not come out to do a review. So if we come out this year and we don't come out for 2 years, then you're going to get this other program specific audit from this auditor that we pay for. It's required. So now if you're nonprofit, you are required to have that audit, that outside audit, and you send it to us. But if you're for profit, we'll pay for this and we'll come in, but we have to do this every year that we are not there. And this is if you receive more than $750,000 a year by your organization, by your daycare, and this is all federal funds. So that's including our reimbursement. That's including the swiping that you do from DHS. You get title funds. If you have any grants, commodities, the only thing that won't be listed that will not count towards that is if you got the PPE loan. Okay, let's talk eligibility. So when we talk about eligibility to be on this program, what you need to do is you have a family size and income application that you will be sending out to your parents, and an enrollment form. Adult daycares, you do not have an enrollment form that you have to do, but there is a family size and income application. So these forms cannot be, they must be completed by the parent or guardian. The center cannot complete these forms for them. Now, if you may need to update something, and you can do that, and I'll show you how to do that later, but the only thing that a facility can put on the family size and income application or enrollment form is the enrolled child's name. That's it. Everything else must be filled out by the parent. Now, everybody on here must send these out. You must distribute them every year. This says child care center, but really any daycare center, anybody who's on the program, if you have an application, you have to send out new applications every year to your parents. All applications must be on the current year form, which we have done something to make that easier. And again, adult daycares, you must distribute the application each year. However, it does not have to be returned. And I'm going to give you we've made some changes to all this about why I'm saying what I'm saying, because we made some changes to our CACFP, our child center application, and it looks different than the adult daycare, which they used to be the same. So with the child care side and Head Starts, again, a parent or a guard. So if you have the child care the daycare center, and I'm going to show it to you, and you have the child care application you give to your parents, it is not required for the parents to fill out part 2. That's the income section. But the top part of that application is the enrollment section. So we do ask that the parents fill the top section out and then send that back in. Now you may have some parents who are like, no, I'm not filling out this application. You're like, but I just need the top part. I just need the top part. It's the enrollment. Can you please fill this out? And they're like, no, we do have, right now it's called Head Start. In the manual, it's called Head Start enrollment form. But you can also go out there. We have one that's just called Cacfp enrollment form in the resource library. And then in this one that I updated that, again, I can't put out there. I can't get it to print to post. It just says Cacfp enrollment form. So if you have a parent that does refuse to give you an application and they won't give you the app, so you can't get the enrollment form, you can give them just a regular enrollment form to fill out. And again, it has been on the application, but if they will not give it back, then you can definitely use that enrollment form from the one that we have online. So again, there's kind of three ways for the enrollment form. It is in the application and agreement, or it's in that, it's in the family size and income application. So it's on that top part. And again, it has to be the child's name, the date of birth, the days that they attend, the normal hours that they're in your center, and the meals that they receive while they're there. So if a parent will not fill that out, you can go and get the Cacfp enrollment form online, and that will be one per child. Again, if it's in the manual, it's the Head Start form. Or you can, if you do create your own enrollment form, you can, as long as it has what we need on there, you have to have it approved by your specialist, or you can use your own enrollment form. So those are your three options, but we have to have enrollment on everybody. We don't have to have an application, but we have to have an enrollment form. I don't have any Head Starts on here, so I'm not going to talk about Head Starts. But we're going to go ahead and talk about how do you approve an application. So when you approve an application, this is the Cacfp childcare application. So I have nobody that's new on here. So I just want to point out what is different from this application from last year if you were not aware. So we did put the date on here at the top. So that way now you know that if you're using the correct year application. We also changed down here in this section. So this is right here is for all kids. This is the enrollment form right up here. This is the enrollment section. So what they're supposed to do is put the enrolled kids here who's in your center, and then any additional child that is not in your center or anybody else who lives in the household will go here. We did update this last year, but it wasn't in the manual, but it does say name down here of other household members, including children not listed above. Something else that we added is sometimes we've seen situations where there's somebody that lives in the household, like nobody up here has SNAP, TANF, or FDPER, but somebody down here in the household does. So in this last column, that's where it says other income, or they can put their SNAP, TANF, and FDPER number there. Something else that we did update is in this section. So what happened was we found this application from another state. So we modified it, and then we got approval from USDA to use it, but we learned that the other state, and we did some stuff based off of our application, like actually USDA application, we made the wording. And this said free meals, reduced meals, and paid meals. Well, that's a school term. So we did make it free, reduced, and not eligible. So as you remember, so again, enrollment section, this is the income section that a parent does not have to fill out. This is also optional. Again, and the reason we created a Cacfp enrollment form is this is now also on the Cacfp enrollment form, is the ethnic information. And again, down here is where they sign and date it. And then this section down here is for the center to fill out after the application has been done. And again, we made this just a one-page application. I've heard good things about this. We didn't know at first, but I really haven't heard. I mean, I heard some complaints over some of the wording on here that we did get corrected, but I have not really heard any complaints about this one-page form. A lot of the centers, I think, seem to like it. And just again, as a reminder, that they put their stuff in here monthly. They don't do it based on or they don't do it based on weekly, every 2 weeks. And again, this is for just our daycare side. And again, to approve the application for income for the childcare side, they have to have the names on their enrolled up top. Then again, they list all the other household members in the part 2. If a household member has no income, they have to make sure they hit that no income box or put zeros. And then the parent or a guardian has to sign and date it. And they also are required to put the last 4 of their social on that application and agreement. Now let's talk about my adult day. So this is for my adult day. Your form has not changed at all. Now, what we have done is we did put the year on here. I may put the 21-22. That way you make sure that you're using the correct form, but nothing has changed with this. It is still the 2-page, but it is still the same requirements. Because no one's new. I have nobody new on here. So I just, if I were new, I'd talk more in depth to go over some of this stuff, but nothing has changed with the adult. And I don't think we're ever going to change anything with the adult, because the adult one is pretty easy to fill out, considering like everybody usually qualifies based on like Social Security or Medicaid. So now again, for the adult daycare, in part 1 is where they put the list of those that are adults that are enrolled in your center. Part 2 is the names of all that other household members, is where you list that below, and I can show that to you. So right here again is all the enrolled. Again, down here is all the other household members. And then someone from there has to sign it and date it from the home. If it's income, they have to put the last 4 of their social. And then again, they do have to check the box if there is, yeah, in case you guys did forget, a lot of you did not. If they're like, I don't have a social, they just mark this box. I do not have one, and it's on both applications. Okay, now with the adult daycare side, they can still fill the application out. If they do it by income, they can still do it by weekly, every 2 weeks, twice a month, and monthly. So what happens is, if they fill it out that way, if say you have somebody that gets paid every 2 weeks and someone that gets paid monthly, then what you have to do is you have to convert their yes. No. We when we talk about adult daycares, we're usually saying who their guardian is. So it's usually going to be their guardian who's going to be signing and doing all that stuff. It would not be the client. It'd be really whoever is in the care that's usually who will sign and do all that stuff for your participants. So if it is, they get paid say twice a month or every 2 weeks, and then monthly, then you do have to make that, you have to convert it annually. So you take what they make and multiply it by every 2 weeks. So it'd be 26. The one who gets paid every month, you do it by 12 and then convert it annually. Now for those, so say you have that same application and both people will get paid weekly, you do not have to convert it. You can just go to the column in the eligibility section and go and how many household members, how much are they making, to the weekly column. But we also, for both sides, for everybody, and this is schools as well, we do have applications in other languages, both in the school side, in the other documents, and in the resource library. It is under Spanish, but it's also next to, it's right, it should be in the same section as where your application is. Or it's like, I think center forms, it's in center forms, but we do have one. If you click on, so school side, you just click on it because we can put links in there and it will take you to the USDA website. Cacfp will pull up a Word document. I think you just copy and paste that link and you put it into the system. And I can't remember if there's 32 or 64 different languages. So if you do need an application in a different language, you will use USDA's. It's USDA's form. That's what gets hard, is because we really need it. Like, I don't speak Spanish. So looking at a Spanish form, I would not know what it means. I really wish that they would put something someplace so you can convert, like, so you know what you're looking at when you don't speak that language. We have one school district in the state. I think they have to use 6 different language applications. So it is a great resource for everybody. If you do need a application in a different language, you will not be using the ones we have in our manual. You'll be going to USDA website and using theirs. So with the income application approval, again, we do ask for daycare centers if the parent can fill out the top section for the enrollment form. If they do not want to fill out part 2, if they don't complete part 2, it's not eligible. If they leave it blank or put an X in it or put an A, it means they don't want to give you the information. So that is an income application. If it's not completed, it just means they're not eligible. They will go on the not eligible section. Now, in adult daycare, if it's not complete, again, they don't get benefits as well. Again, if they don't send an application back to you, or if they leave it blank, again, they are both considered not eligible. We do approve those based on face value. Now, when you're asking for terms, we do have some definitions in the manual, and we have it for everybody. This is on our school site as well, but we have determining household size, determining household income, income exclusions, and military exemptions. So some questions that we have gotten on this is determining the household size. If I have a child that's off at college, are they considered part of the household? Yes, they are. They can still be on there. How to determine household income. So let's say that you get a person they get child support on a regular basis, like every month. Do they have to put that on there? Yes, they do. Some income exclusions. If you're fostering a family, if you're fostering children, then the family does not have to put on the income that they get from DHS onto that application. And then military exemptions, and we don't have very many people that will use this, but like if you get Agent Orange pay, it's not required to be on the application. What if they just don't put income? There's no income reported. So for any person without income, they have to put at least a 0 or check the box stating that they're not getting income. Again, if it's left blank, if there's an X or it says NA, that doesn't mean they want to give you the information. But if they fill out the application and they put a 0 and put no income check marks on everybody that does not receive income, if they put the last 4 of their social and sign it, then it can be approved as an income application. It's just they have no income. And talking about exclusions as well, that we see a lot, because we'll see applications like this, but they're like, if you don't make any money, then why is your child in daycare? Sometimes people that are going back to school full time, they may be living on student loans. They do not have to report student loans on the application. So again, if you have any knowledge or information that someone from the house misreported their income, this is a federal document that they're signing. So when they're signing it, it is an actual federal document. So when we mean to say that they put no income, no income, no income, and signed and dated it, but every day the parent's coming in with a Sonic shirt and a Sonic hat, as you can tell, they're off to work. Then that means that they misreported their income. And just contact your program specialist, and they can tell you how to do what we call verification for cause. So contact them and they can help you with that. So that was income application that we just talked about. So now let's talk about if you have a categorical. So the categorical, and this is for all entities, this is for adults and for regular daycare, you have to have the full name of the enrolled person on that form. And then they have to have a case number. So it has to be from Oklahoma. So like I'm from Central Oklahoma, so to me, it's just a weird thing, but we do have people that live close to a border, so they can't really be receiving Kansas or Texas SNAP. They have to be getting SNAP from Oklahoma. And we have to see their case number, and it has to start with an A, B, C, D, H, J, or T, and then with a 6 to 9 digit. The reason it must be an Oklahoma number is because of the way that our state approves SNAP, TANF, and FITFR. Some states approve it differently. So that's why it's allowable in Oklahoma. TANF, if you don't know what SNAP is, SNAP is food stamps. TANF is temporary assistance for needy family. Again, it's also with the CR and H, so it can be the same and it will have the 6 to 9 digits. FITFR number, you're going to see this periodically. It just will really depend on where you're at. The number on it will also depend on the tribe. What FITFR is it's it's food distribution program on an Indian reservation. So what that means is they're getting commodities from a tribe. So if they're like, well, I get a roll, I'm on roll, that's not the same thing. They have to be getting commodities. They have to be getting food from a tribe. And then in adult daycare only, you're allowed to use Medicaid or Social Security. You can approve that way. Oklahoma does not accept Sooner Care. Sooner Care is done on the reduced scale. So if someone puts their Sooner Care number on there, that does not qualify for free. Because in Oklahoma, Sooner Care can qualify as free, or they use the reduced scale. So someone that might get Sooner Care may not be free, they may just get reduced. So That is why some things we can't accept, especially from other states. Now, on the application, you only have to have one number, only one SNAP, TANF, or FITPER, or if you have an adult, if there's multiple adults from a family, you know, with Social Security, if you have one Medicare number, that will enroll everybody for free. You have to have on the application, so you have to have the SNAP, everybody who's enrolled, SNAP, TANF, or FITPER number, the case number, the one that starts with the letter. Then you have to have a signature from the adult or guardian. And then that's it. That's all they need. And then if they do put income on there, you can disregard the income. You're not required to look at it. Now, foster children. Now, foster kids are categorically eligible. But so just an FYI, so again, we base applications at face value. So if somebody marks that this child is a foster child, we say they're a foster child. But if you have a parent or a grandparent that comes up to you and go, here's the deal. She goes, well, I'm his guardian. Do I still put it on here? And then here's the question that you ask. Be like, is the child, if you're a guardian, is the child in state custody? Is he awarded to the state? Is he in state custody? Or are you just a guardian and waiting for whatever happens to happen? And if they say, no, he's in state custody, like he's awarded to the state, but I have him, that's a foster child. A guardianship is just someone who's taking in somebody while the parent is, or, you know, whatever is happening is happening. A guardianship is not foster. So they're not automatically free. If it's a guardianship, the family needs to put, they will fill it out just like they would. Put it, the children enrolled, then list everybody else in the household with income or a SNAP or TANF number. But if it is a foster child, that foster child needs to be marked on the application, and that foster child is automatically free. If there are other children listed on the application and they are not foster kids, then they have to be approved a different way. So you could easily have a free child and not eligible children. You have a free child and reduced children. So the foster child is automatically free, but not all other children will be. Now, if you only have a foster child on the application, mark foster, sign and date it, and then that's it. They don't have to have the last four of the social. But if you have any questions about this, again, you can reach out to me, reach out to your program specialist about anything that we covered today. Now, one thing we also have to make people aware of is when people are swiping in your center, that is with DHS, that's contracting. That means that they're eligible for benefits, for daycare assistance benefits. That does not mean that they qualify for food stamps. That does not mean that they have TANF. It does not mean that they're getting FITPER. It means that they are getting daycare assistance. Now, you may have someone who is getting SNAP and then they also swipe in, they're also on contract, and the number could be the same, but you cannot be like, oh, well, I have 10 kids that swipe in. I'm just going to go over there and put that number on these kids' applications. You cannot do that. Again, that is childcare assistance that they're getting. It's a subsidy. They can qualify it in way different ways than what we approve. So, for instance, I have some friends that adopted a child out of foster care, and that child will receive benefits, daycare subsidy until age 6. And so they don't qualify. Like, they make too much money that they don't qualify for meals. But just because somebody is getting childcare subsidy does not mean that they're getting SNAP, TANF, or FITPER. So don't go over there and swipe. You can ask them, be like, hey, if they're swiping in, you can be like, do you get SNAP or TANF? And they say yes or no, then you'll know. But so you can be like, can you put that on the application? But just don't assume because they're swiping in that they're getting SNAP, TANF, and FITPER. It's based on different. A lot of people can get subsidy that cannot get benefits for our program. So just kind of an FYI. Now, on the application agreement, this happens quite a bit, that you might be getting missing information, or you can't read what they wrote, or it's kind of questionable what they said, or it's inconsistent. If that's the case, when I mean inconsistent, what that means is maybe you have 2 kids, you gave them 2 applications and they filled it out differently. And this happens, especially if you have a mom filling out one and a dad filling out one and they live together, like Dad doesn't always know what mom makes, but mom knows. So if dad filled it out, it may not be right. And I'm teasing if there's any guys out here, but I mean, it just kind of happens that way. So if they're inconsistent, they need to be the same. So if you do get more than one, you staple them together. You cannot get rid of applications until past the 3-year mark, even if they're blank. You can't get rid of them in case you ever get audited. So if you get multiple, you staple them together and then you contact the family and be like, hey, this set, which one's correct? Or you can ask some questions about it. If something is missing, say that they're missing the last 4 of their social because they gave it by income, you can call them and say, hey, I'm looking at your application. I need the last 4 of your social. Can you give it to me? And let's say they give it to you over the phone. You can write it in. However, you need to make notations on there about talk to mom on March 7th, didn't have Social Security, added it, and then your initials. We can tell when there's 2 different handwritings on there. We can even tell with numbers. So we can tell if somebody, that's what the swiping thing, we can tell when someone goes to a machine and writes numbers in. So it's okay if you do need to add something. But what I will tell you is I'm a kind of a neat freak. And I like things to look a certain way. But when it comes to these applications, they need to be messy. So my thing for that is I had some people that their parents, I would really have parents do this in pen. Say they put on their weekly and it said bi-weekly, but you didn't see the bi, anything that get confusing. Maybe that you like their income, they didn't put it monthly, they put $25,000 and you call them, you're like, is this a monthly income? They're like, oh no, that's my annual. Don't erase it. I've had people, they did it in pencil, they would erase it or they would white it out. Do not alter that application. If you erase it or if you white it out and then write over it, it looks like you altered the app, like it looks like fraud. I'll say that word, and it looks like you altered that application. Just you can mark it out, mark next, right next to it. Don't make it look like you're filling it out for the parent. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, because it did, like this family would be like, oh, someone called in. They're like, this is wrong. And I'm like, no, I get it. I like my applications. I like everything to be neat and stuff too, but don't erase it. Because what happens is you erase it and then you write over it and it looks like you altered the application. So just notate it, make them applications like messy, messy, messy if you have to add stuff to it. And as a reminder, each application is not approved until someone from the center approves that application. So that bottom part, or for the adult day on the back part, someone from the center. So if I come out to do a review and all the bottom is blank or the back is blank from the adult daycare, then they're not approved applications. They're all not eligible. They're not approved until someone who you guys pick who you want to do it. You can have multiple people do it. It's up to you, but you're telling us how you approved it on the back. That's what you do. You're telling us they're free based on income. You sign and date it. If those are blank, they're not approved applications. So at the end of that, when you take your applications and you're going to put them on a roster. So if you put all your free kids on the free roster, all your reduced kids on the reduced roster, and anybody that did not send in an application or anybody who did not qualify based on the amount of money they make, or don't have SNAP, TANF, FIPR, they are not eligible. And that's how you claim. So at the end of the month, you, again, if they participated at least one day that month in a meal, then you mark that they were there, and that's how you claim. You take the total of the free, the total of the reduced, and the total of the paid, and that's your participation data. Now, this could be a situation we keep on seeing this a little bit more and more. Maybe you have infants and your parents filled out an infant meal waiver form and they're not going to participate in the program until they're 1. Or maybe you have someone that has a lot of allergies and the parent's like, I'm going to provide all my kids meals. I just don't want cross-contamination. To be safe, I don't want my child participating in the program. If your child is not eating the food at the daycare, then they still have to be on a roster, and you would just put on their NP for not participating. And if they're not participating, then the good news is you don't need an application. You don't need an enrollment form. You don't need anything on them. We don't need to know. We don't care what they eat because you're not claiming the meal. But just letting us know, because what happens is if we pull your attendance records and we're going to see this child in your attendance, but not on the roster. So we're going to think that you forgot and that you left this person off. just put them on the not eligible roster and just put NP for every month. And it's just saying that they're not participating in CACFP. Okay, let's talk about some record keeping. Now after the section around 10:30, I want you guys to think about it. If you guys choose to, if I have one person say yes, we'll do it. So not yet, but at 10:30, I'm going to ask if you guys want to take about a 10-minute break. If not, like if you need to get up and take a phone call now, go to the bathroom, please do so. But I can ask at 10:30 if you want to take about a 10-minute break. And then if you do, then we'll definitely do so. If not, we'll just keep going through. But this course will probably run until noon. So regardless if we take a break or not. So it's really up to you if you want to, but I'll ask again at 10:30. So again, all forms must be obtained daily by month at each site for any institution participating in CACFP. And as I mentioned earlier, all your records must be kept on site at the approved location in your application and agreement. Now, the only thing that I have in here about at-risk really is if you're a daycare center and you do at-risk, that you do have to keep separate records. So, and you can only do at-risk during the school calendar year. So say my daycare, I have a daycare here at the State Department of Education. So that means I'm in Oklahoma City Public School District. And so I can only do this program on the first day Oklahoma City Public School starts school and the last day, so sometime in May. You can still serve the meals during spring break, Christmas break, summer break, which spring break is next week. You can serve meals then, but you can only do it during the school calendar year, so you just can't do it during the summer break. What people ask sometimes, like, what is at risk? At risk is a separate program. And to be on at risk, you have to be in an area where at least 50% of the students are eligible for free and reduced price meals. And that's for the school that you're at. So like, again, if I'm here at the State Department of Ed and I am in Oklahoma City School District, I would pick the school site, and that school site has to be 50% free or reduced. Not only does it have to be in an area like that, but you have to have an organized educational and or enrichment activity. It's only available to school age children, and it must be primarily, it has to be after school and to provide care for after school setting. So that is what at risk is, if you're curious what that was. It's a whole separate program. You have to sign up for it separately. Okay, so let's talk about some record keeping. So we do have to have daily attendance records. We have to have, we don't have to have arrival and departures. If I was out in the field, I just ask to use your DHS ones, which a lot of people will ask to see DHS, but you do have to have daily attendance records. And just so you are aware, because people will kind of butt heads with us a little bit on this, we are allowed to look at DHS paperwork, just as DHS is, if it has to do with something that relates to our program, we can look at it. So if I ask for you to pull up DHS, your time in, time out sheets, I can look at that. DHS can come to your facility and say, I need to see your menu of serve forms. They can see that. State agencies can look at other state agency forms. So just kind of an FYI, so people get bucked about it. I'm not going to, if I need you to do arrival and departure times, you have to have a system in place if you serve more than 3 meals per day. And this is a good time for me to ask this question. I have a couple polls. So next question on the poll is, let me see if this did this correctly. Yes, perfect. I need to redo that. Okay, quick question. How many meals per day on CACF meet? And so I know we have a school on here, so you won't count, I know, but we're talking how many meals on do you claim with CACFP? So I need to know if I need to go more depth about something or if I can, and some of you may be looking at the 4+ meals per day. It is allowable. However, you can only claim 3 meals per day per child. So that's why there's more paperwork involved if you do more meals. So I'm just kind of curious to see how much I need to, so it doesn't look like really anybody is, okay, perfect.
I'm sorry, I couldn't find my chat. I do 1 meal a day.
Perfect. That's fine. You're good. You're good. And that's fine. And that's why I kind of put maximum of 2 meals, just because I figured that some may do 1, but you're allowed to do 2 if you're at risk. Good. I don't want to have to really like I said, you can serve more meals per day. However, that's when you may have to do time in, time out. Most of us are going to have you do what we call the DROMS form. I will show you what the DROMS form looks like. But again, if you do serve more than 3 meals per day, even if a child eats more than 3 meals per day, you can only claim them for 3 meals per day. So there's a lot to it. I can help answer questions. If it's something that you're thinking about doing, please contact me, because I will be honest with you. Even when I was in the field, I will be very honest. I'll give you my honest opinion. So my first 3 years, I had the entire state as my territory. Then I had 3 years in one territory and 3 years in another territory. So I've seen quite a bit. And so I will give you my honest opinion about what I see about things, if you want an honest opinion. So you can make your ultimate decision, but if you want my opinion, or like just ask some questions about like, hey, we're thinking about doing supper, what are your thoughts? Ask me. I won't do it here, but just saying that you can contact me at any time, and you can, your program specialist as well. But I'll tell you all your options and give you my personal thoughts about yes or no, why or why not. So take it or leave it. But if you ever want your honest opinion about what may be good for your facility, I'll tell you. That may be honestly the most beneficial for your facility. That's why I will tell you that. I'll tell you the pros and cons. But you do have to have a meal count worksheet. And the meal count worksheet is, again, the point of service. It's when a meal is given to the child. Because, again, just because a child is in attendance doesn't mean he's eating. Maybe you have a child that's going to go to the dentist and the parent's like, don't feed my child. Maybe he leaves at 12:30 and you feed at 11:30. And mom's like, don't feed him because he has a dentist appointment and I'm going to take him to lunch after. So it has to be when they get a meal. It has to be when they get a meal. So make sure, again, you count them as the point of service. And then this is the DROMS form. Anybody can use this form. It doesn't have to be if you're serving more than 3 meals per day. This is just the example. Again, the reason these are circled is because, again, this child ate more than 3 meals per day and they can only claim 3. He had 4. We do have this form. I had a lot of centers that only serve 3 meals per day. They serve usually breakfast, lunch, PM snack. We have this form if you like it. It is a meal count worksheet and attendance at the same time. We do have this form available for 3 meals. So it's in the resource library under the interactive forms. So you can choose. But again, most of us are going to require it if you have more than 4 meals, because it's the easiest form to do, not the time in, time out. But again, I have a lot of people that like, I love this form, but it was so big, but I only have 3 meals. We created one for those. Something that we did do for CACFP it's not for the adults. The adults are the same, but what we did for the child care is we do have a new meal count worksheet. What we did is we had it long and it was landscape. It just was running out of room and I needed to put something on the form. So we did change it to now it's horizontal. Now it's vertical, and we have one side for children and one side for adults. It's also because a lot of times people were forgetting to put because the infants were in the middle and people were forgetting to claim their infants. So we were hoping this might make it a little bit easier. Now, I will tell you, if you go out to the resource library under interactive forms for meal count worksheet, it's done like this, where it says, if you look at the bottom tab, it has child, infant, and then we have the old form out there. So if you did like the old form, you can use the old form. But sometimes people don't have any infants and they don't want the infant meal worksheet. They want something bigger. So we do have a new meal count worksheet. Now, food purchasing forms. Whenever we come out to do a review, this is also one of the big things with USD, like with the program. It's not just feeding kids, but let me talk more about the program. Okay, so the food purchasing form, when is it required? So a food purchasing form is required to be filled out if you are purchasing your food items from a place that does not give you an itemized receipt. So an example of not an itemized receipt is if you go to Walmart, you get the paper receipt. You go to Crest, you go to CVS, Staples, Reese's. Those paper receipts that you get basically everywhere is not an itemized receipt. So you have to fill out this form for that. So we get some questions. So just I'm going to talk and show you the form if you're not familiar with it. Again, we don't have anybody new, but if an item is not reimbursable on its own, meaning maybe you serve like the sliced cheese that doesn't count, or you serve deli meat that doesn't count, or you give them ketchup, where do you put that on the form? It is an ingredient, or it is something that makes the food taste better, so it can go in the food and milk section. Now, if an item on the receipt cannot be determined of what it is, then it needs to go in the non-reimbursable section, and I'm going to show you examples of that. And any item that does not count towards the reimbursable meal, or it's considered an allowable expense, like say you buy donuts, they're not allowed on the program, then they would go in the non-reimbursable section. And this is a copy of the food purchasing form. I did update this. It will be the new one that's not out there yet. And it's highlighted on here. I did not highlight it in the book, but the ones that are highlighted on here are from real receipts. These are from actual receipts from us going to a daycare to do a review. And this is why it's important is that I bring this up, is because when I talked about if I don't know what it is and you don't know what it is, it needs to go down here. So for instance, it said tub on the receipt, and we found out it was butter. One, it said twin 18 EG. It was eggs. It was an 18 pack of eggs. We had Calm Pantry, which was cream and mushroom soup. This is Hildy, CHDR for, it was cheddar cheese. Again, this is what these stores had it as. Yours might have it different. This one had GVRTN, which was Rotoni noodles. So we do need to know what it says on the receipt so we can see it on the receipt. We'll find it, but you also need to put next to it what the item is. Now, maybe you're giving your cook goes to do the shopping, and I'll explain that perfectly when you buy baby food from Amazon. And so if you say you go to the store, your cook does, and you give your receipt to the director, they're the ones that are doing this form. If there's questionable things on there, like these items, like the rotini noodles, please write it on there or tell them, because when they're going out to fill the form out, maybe they're doing it later. They don't know what you bought. So if you don't know what it is and we come out and you don't know what it is and I don't know what it is, then it needs to be down here, because we don't know if it's an allowable or a non-allowable item. Now, most of the time now, to be honest, a lot of you are not going to need that form. And the reason why is you're able to get a detailed invoice that shows the quantity, the weight, the size, and the price. Now, an example of this is if you get a receipt from a vendor like Cisco, Benny Keith, US Foods, Tankersley, Mid-America, like on there, it will say you got like 3 cases, which is 4 gallons in a case of white Highland 4% milk or whole milk. It's very detailed. Another example is if you do grocery pickup or grocery delivery, and Amazon, I'm assuming would be the same way. Just print out that form, because I'm sure on there it would say that you bought 50 jars of 3-ounce green bean Gerber baby food. Like if it's that detailed, that's an itemized receipt. You just print that out. The only thing that you do need to do with the receipts is, say with Amazon, you just buy baby food. Baby food is baby food. It's all allowable. Well, most of the time it's all allowable if you're buying the right items. But maybe like if you're buying from a vendor and you get like paper goods, you get paper towels, and you get foil, like what I remember looking at invoices, that with a vendor, they'll put like the food and milk at top and the supplies at the bottom, which is great because you still need to kind of have it differently. Now, a school district, I'm going to talk about a form, and the school district does not have to do this. A school district, though, you do need to sign and date your invoices. You get invoices from, because you do invoices. Now, if you were just buying all your food at Walmart, then you would need to do this for CACFP, but there's some entities that the way you are, there's one form for sure that a school will not have to do, and I'll show you what that is. Because of the way you have to code everything. Which our daycare centers don't code. They don't send their coding to the State Department. But like if you do grocery pickup from Walmart and you have foil and paper plates and paper towels, If you can, like on the receipt, like at the bottom, just put food and milk and put the total amount that was spent on food and milk, and then put like supplies and then like total the foil, that plates, because you still will have to have it separated on your expenditure worksheet. So just kind of an FYI with receipts and invoices. So if you have the paper receipt, we always have to have the original, even if it's faded, even if you make a copy. You can make a copy of it, but we have to always have the original, even if it's completely faded. And it has to be attached, the whole thing, to the purchasing form. Now, any receipt that has been altered or cut off at the bottom, and I'm talking about the paper receipts, we can't allow. Even if you alter like one from Walmart, like a grocery pickup or an Amazon, we can't allow anything that's been altered. If your receipt or invoice is missing a date, the date it was purchased, we will need that. So I need to go look at Amazon. You may need to take like a print screen to show the date that you ordered it. If you go to your order section, because I buy a lot from Amazon, you can go to your order section and maybe take a screenshot of that and put it with the receipt so it shows the date that you bought it, if it's not already on there. And then if you do grocery pickup or delivery, it has to be the final receipt that you do at pickup or when it's delivered. It can't be one that's still in process or one it's either submitted or still in process. I'm legally blind. I've been for 3 years. I can't drive anymore. I have no peripheral vision. I only have central, and I do grocery delivery, and which is a godsend, I will tell you. But there's a lot of times I'll order something and they have to substitute, or they don't have it in stock anymore, so they leave it off. So just because you ordered it does not mean that you're going to actually get it by the time you're getting it to your house or whenever you go pick it up. So that's why we have to have the one that is completed, not the one that is from when you submit it. So we have what's called an expenditure worksheet. Now with the school too, we will want to see your invoices for Cacfp, but you will not be required. Talk to your, I need to really ask about this, but I don't, because you buy your food with schools, you buy it for school lunch and you use it for Cacfp. If that's your case, then we really won't have you do an expenditure reimbursement worksheet because you're coding everything. You're going to look at your coding. So don't worry too much about this as a school with at risk. So this is a summary. What you do at the end of the month is you take all your receipts for everything that you spent on Cacfp. And this is one of the biggest things on the program. Like people are thinking, yes, serving food, all that kind of stuff, but people don't understand the importance, how important it is for you to have all your receipts and showing us everything that you're spending your money on. So everything that can go on this expenditure worksheet can be food purchases, non-food purchases, or anything that you bought for Cacfp and labor. Again, the only items on here are solely used for Cacfp purposes. It's things that you're charging off to the program. So what people don't always understand when it comes to, because they think people will be like, oh, I can put my labor on here, so you're going to pay me extra for labor. That's not how it works. So this is what happens. We give you a lump sum of money based on the total number of meals that you feed, based on free, reduced, paid. We pay you a lump sum every month. In turn, you're showing us how you're spending the money that we give you. And again, any allowable expenses can go on here. Again, it has to be in your budget. So let's say you had to buy an oven, but it's not in your budget and it's not approved. So then you can't put your oven on there. But again, you can go and update your budget at any point. So make sure you go in and put that you bought an oven, and then you can update that. The items that are used for, say you buy something and it's used for both Cacfp and say your center, like paper towels. Maybe you have paper towels in the bathroom, you have paper towels in the kitchen. You can prorate it, meaning you can say it's 50-50, you can charge off 50% of the price, or you can do maybe this month you charge it all off to Cacfp, the next month you don't. But if it's not, if you use something, even say you buy a freezer, maybe you're with a church and you buy a freezer and the church uses it on Sundays, but you use it 5 days a week, maybe you can prorate that to how often this, or maybe 50-50, because if that's the school, if that is the churches and they're keeping stuff in there all the time, you can just split the cost down the middle and you can charge off 50% of that to Cacfp. We do have a list in this manual about allowable and unallowable expenses. It's not everything, it's just a good idea of what you can and cannot charge off. So again, this is an example of their expenditure worksheet. So up at the top right here is all the receipts of food that they spent. Again, you have to list it out as the food that you spent and the non-food. And then down here is where they put labor. Now you're not required to do labor, but I'm going to tell you why this is all important and why you may want to do labor. So you can see the cook is on here and then 2 teachers, but I will tell you, you can see that the cook is on here twice and so are the teachers. The reason why is they're paid twice a month. Now, if you want to do something different, I had a center that said I pay weekly. Do I have to do this every week? And then they called their program specialist and their specialist told them you can do it once, but talk to yours. Yours is going to tell you why to do things. They've been out to your center. They know, they understand that not everything that we do or that may be best for you and the way you are, they'll tell you how to do it. Some will be like, no, you need to do it every week. Put it on here. Some may be like, no, I've been out to your center. The way you do it in the documentation that you can give me, it's fine. So just kind of an FYI, but you have to reach out to your program specialist regarding that information. Then we also have the director on here and she's charging off admin labor. So this is food service labor, operational labor. This is admin labor that they're charging off to CACFP. Non-program, you're not really going to have this, but we have this on our example. What non-program meals is program meals is if you have like your teachers, they're eating with the kids, they're program. You can absorb the cost of those adults. A non-program adult is one like, let's just say with this example, this is October. Let's say you had an October party and you invited parents to come and eat lunch with their kids, but you have to charge them because they're non-program. You can't just absorb the cost, or someone or your center or your school can pay for the cost, but you do, this is income. So this last column where it says income is income to CACFP, and that might be how you get income for CACFP. Again, most of you won't do this. This is not just any income that you get. This is income to the program. So with this, they put the total number of admin labor down here, the total amount they spent on food service labor, the total amount for this month they spent on food and non-food purchases. And you may have to have a couple of these if you have a lot of items. The reason this form is so important is so down here, not the income, but we add all this up and we put it down here. So this, they spent over $2,000 that month on CACFP items. In column 15, number 15, this is how much they got in reimbursement is $856. So they have an operating balance of $1,881.14. So this is why that form is so important to us. You are required to have a nonprofit food service account. So what that means is you have to show us how you're spending the money. You cannot make money on the federal government. So you have to be spending more money on our program than what we're giving you. It's a subsidy. It's not, we're trying to get you rich, which you won't on this program, but it's showing that how you're spending, you're showing us how you're spending the money, the reimbursement that we give you. Plus you have to spend more. Now, some of you do, I will tell you, so let's just say that your CACFP funds, you spend $1,000 a month. We give you $1,000 a month in reimbursement. And so you have to show us that you're spending more than that. Now we do understand that sometimes depending on the month, you may not spend more, you may spend less. Like say we give you $1,000, you spend $800. You can carry over a little bit from month to month. That is allowable. It's called a 3-month operating balance. It is allowable. Now, the thing is let's just say, if we come out that month and you didn't spend more, what we're going to do is we're going to look at we're going to take 3 months back. So maybe you bought an oven 3 months ago. We're going to include all of that in. Now, what's going to happen in the future, I'll go ahead and kind of talk about it now. This is why your budget is so important. Again, because it has to be approved in the budget for you to charge it off. But the reason why your budget needs to be updated and stuff, but at the end of the year, and it's probably going to be this year, is when we come out to do a review, or maybe we're not reviewing you all that year, you might be making money on our program. We have to have a way to show that you're not making money on the program. And so we think it might be in the application, but at the end of the year, you're going to have to fill out documentation telling us how much you meant, or you may have to be sending us documentation showing us for the year how much you've been spending on your CACFP, because you cannot be making money in our program. So anyway, just it's a big deal. You cannot be making money on our program. So again, maybe some of you spend so much money on food and milk that you don't have to do labor, but you can put your labor on there. You can do administration labor or you can do operating labor. You can do both. Operating labor is food service labor. That will be your teachers that help serve meals. It's your cook. And you can charge off all your entire cook's salary because they're doing nothing but CACFP. Administration, that's the person like at the end of the month that's putting the paperwork together, claiming, filling out the application, that kind of thing. Again, labor must be in your budget and approved in order to charge it off. The center cannot charge off more than what is approved in the budget. So let's just say that you have an employee that you started at $8 an hour, but you can give them a raise up to $12 an hour. But whenever you filled out your application, you put $8 an hour, but now they're making 12. You can still, unless you go in and change your budget, which you can at any time, then you can only, in our system, you can always charge less. So we'll look at their pay stubs. You can always charge off less, but you can't charge off more than the budget. A center cannot charge off more than the employee is paid. I had a situation where it was the cook. They charged off $1,000 a month for the cook, which is very reasonable amount. And when I asked to see the pay stubs, the employee was getting paid $1,200 a year. That person was mostly just a volunteer. You cannot charge off more than what they're making. If you are an owner and you're not getting paid because you're an owner right now and you're not getting the funds, you cannot charge off admin costs to you if we don't have a paycheck to look at. You have to have a pay stub. We can't accept any labor paid with cash, Venmo, or Cash App because we have to see that taxes have been paid out. And we must have labor, must be on a W-4, and it can't be a 1099, or it can't be charged off to CACFP. A 1099 is a contract labor, and we have to see the contract and all that kind of stuff. It has to be a W-4, not a 1099. So again, when we come out, not only when we look at your month, I'm going to quickly finish this and we'll talk about the break. So when we come out to look at stuff, so when we're looking at your receipts and stuff, we're also going to look at all your bank and credit card statements of all accounts that you use to make purchases for the CACFP program. Now, all CACFP labor payments and receipts need to be, we will validate those by pay stubs. So we have some people that are independent centers and they're like, well, this is my personal credit card. But if you're making purchases for CACFP, we have to see the statements. We have to validate your receipts that you've spent money on. Like you said that you stopped at Sam's on the 12th and spent $365. I have to see that on your receipts. Because there are going to be some receipts, like we understand the Sam's receipt, that the bottom, there's no barcode, which all other receipts have barcodes on them, so we can validate it using your receipt. So we'll be looking at pay stubs, bank statements, credit card statements, and mostly this is for independent centers. Again, if you deposit CACFP funds into one account and transfer those funds to another account, we can look at both of those accounts. Anytime that there's federal dollars involved, or we're paying you for these items, then we can see where it comes to. So what do you guys think? Do you guys want to take a quick 5-10 minute break? Just say yes or no. If you do or do not, or we can just keep going. Would you like to take a 10-minute break? And you can even say it if you want to unmute, you're more than welcome to do that too. So okay, I got one yes, perfect. We're gonna take a 10-minute break. I have 10:37, we'll say 10:38. Let's come back. Let's just come back at 10:50. Let's make it safe. Let's do 10:50. We will come back. So we'll take a quick little, kind of a little 12-ish minute break, come back, and we will start again. If you have any questions, I'm gonna run to the restroom, but if you have any questions, I'll be back. You can ask. Okay, I apologize. I got stuck talking, which happens sometimes. Take a quick drink. All right. So as you can see from this slide, donated food, we do not allow that in CACFP. You can serve it if you really wanted to serve some, but it cannot be part of the reimbursable meal. It can just be an extra, and that's just for CACFP. Donated food is not allowable. It can be served, but only as an extra. There we go. Okay, does anybody in here have, so here's the deal. If you have multiple sites, you do have to have one expenditure worksheet per site, because when we come out to do a review, we only look at a percentage of sites. So we'll only look at a percentage. We look at a percentage, so you only have to have, but at school, again, if you have multiple sites where it's going to pull your OCAS, it's okay. If you are an owner of multiple sites, but they each have their own agreement number, then you have to separate your receipts. They can't share receipts. Because again, if you have multiple centers, but they each have their own agreement number, because a multi-sited daycare is one that has one agreement number and their sites are listed under that agreement, you do one application. We have some people that have multiple centers, but they have to fill out applications and claims for each one. They're all they all in our system are very individual. So if you do that, each site must have their own receipts. You cannot share receipts. Now, this is a question that we get quite a bit. When we come out to do a review, what is it that may cause an overclaim? Like, what would cause us to take funds back? Well, if we come out and show up and there's no records, if there's any family size and income application errors, and a lot of times when you have application errors, like say you said this child was free, but they're really reduced, then a lot of times you're gonna have roster errors because you put them on the wrong roster. But I will tell you, we allow for some errors. Like, we do allow for errors. We understand there's gonna be human errors. So there may be situations where there's errors, but we're not gonna take back money. Like, we have what we call a disregard. We'll have what's called a $600 disregard. So any errors under that amount, we won't take money back. But if it is over that, we will ask for that back. But again, these are just some errors that we have found that can create issues. If you claim more kids than what you have in attendance, if your meal counts are not properly maintained or there's incorrect numbers, if your records or your documentation does not support the claim, and that's what it is. When we come out to do a review, what we're doing is we're validating the last month that you claim. We're validating that we paid you correctly. So, and it happens a lot when we talk about records, is people will not have all their records done, but they'll file a claim. We're like, well, how did you file a claim if your records weren't done? If you are serving food items and those items are not on the menu as served form, but receipts, okay, sorry, but you're serving something and it's on the menu as served form. Like, this has happened to me. I've seen, like, you're serving spaghetti, but then, and I go through the whole month, I look at what you're serving, and then on your receipts, I see steak, shrimp, pulled pork, but none of that's on your menu. Or what also happens is if maybe you needed, we can tell by your numbers that you should have had 50 gallons of milk that you served based on the number of meals that you got reimbursement for, and the meals that had milk in it. You should have had 50 gallons of milk that you served. And when looking at your receipts and looking at your inventory, you only bought 30 gallons. If you share receipts with another center, if you claim program adults, again, the program adults are those that help you. This is only a child program except for an adult daycare. When we mean program adults, it's the adults that help you. Any helping adult that is not enrolled is, if they're not enrolled in the center, that's called a program adult. But they're there, you cannot, this is only for participants. People participating in the program are the only ones that can be claimed. And if you're a for-profit daycare, so we have a lot of nonprofit daycares, but we also have a ton of for-profit. The only way that you can claim is if you are over 25% free and reduced, either by applications or by Title 20. So if I come out there, and it's happened to me before, and you claim for reimbursement, and the month that I'm looking at, you only had 20% free and reduced kids, or you're only at 20% Title 20, and Title 20 are those that swipe in. It's based on your enrollment. Say you have 20 kids enrolled and only 2 that have Title 20, then you're only at 10%. And if you are less than 25%, you cannot claim on the program. If you're a for-profit, if you're a nonprofit, that rule does not apply to you. We have a lot of nonprofit centers that claim and have 0 free or reduced kids. So you are fine. So let's talk about some other required records. So with our forms, we have forms in the manual. We have schools, so we have school forms, and we have the resource library. We keep forms out there as well. So if you have a form that you are using that is not in the manual, that is not, if you're a school, a lot of the schools can use your same school stuff. If it's in the resource library under center forms or under the interactive forms, if you have a different form that's not found anyplace else that maybe you created, you have to get approval from your program specialist before you can use that form. Now, I'll tell you, a lot of you have forms that are way better than our forms. It's just we've had some instances where the forms were not good, and so we had to take back meals. So now you just need to get approval from us. That way, if you have approval, that way you go get meals taken back. So with building for the future, this form is not required for our adult daycares. It's only required for at-risk and for regular daycare centers. What you do need to do is you have to send out this building for the future every year. Now, here's the 2 things I'll tell you to do. 1, make sure you get the one in the back. You have to put your organization's name in here, okay? So make sure your organization is in here. Now, if you're a daycare center, a suggestion is if you want to print this on the back of your application, you can. That way it saves paper, and we know that you gave it to the parent, even though they're giving it to you right back. You can do that. You can give it to them separately if you want, but we've had a lot of people that are like, I want to save money on paper, application, put that on the back of it. Now, I know I have a school on here and you're at risk. Now, this does have to be out for at risk, but since you're a school district, what I would tell you is post one of these, post it like near your poster, near your civil rights poster, but maybe put a stack someplace, but you don't have to really hand this out to every single child because you guys do the school lunch program, the breakfast program, and probably a lot of other programs. So that's all you really need to do if you're a school. Now, if it was a regular at-risk program, we would say, yes, give it to all your participants. But for a school, just post one. And then I'd put a stack out someplace where they can grab it if they want. But you don't have to do like, if you have 300 kids in your school, you don't have to print out 300. You could just put like a stack of 50. So that's what I would do since you're on every other program. It is required to have a WIC brochure, except for adult daycare centers. They do not have to have one. The WIC brochure, again, so there also is, let me get my handouts, out. I had a consultant or a program specialist send this to me about a year ago, maybe. So if you have to have a WIC brochure available. A lot of you will post it onto a poster, like onto a bulletin board, but you always have to have it. If you want to get some available, I'd have some available. If you run out, you'll contact WIC. But I did find, like I said, a consultant or a program specialist sent this to me. They have, it's called you can even see it. It says an e-WIC brochure. So you can go online and print these out yourself. So again, some people will just like put this online, tape it, or they'll laminate it, but they really would like it that way in case somebody needs it. They can take it with them. So, but just make sure you always have some available. Inventory. Inventory is required for food and milk. Inventory is a list of all, on this inventory that we have is a list of all unopened items on hand. At the end of the month, it is just for food and milk. We're not requiring it for other things. It does need to be completed every month. And again, your receipts and stuff should reflect the things that you did purchase. Now, I don't really talk about it on this, but if you are a school district, a school can use this. Schools have always been required to do an inventory. You can keep doing the same inventory you've always done. You are not required to do something different unless you want to. You can use these forms, absolutely. This form, we have it 2 ways in the interactive forms. It's like this, so you can type in it. The other way we have it in there, it's called schools like it. It's called it's where it costs it out. So say you want to cost out to see how much money you have in inventory. Like if you did beef bologna, and then you would tell us how much it costs, like $3.59, and how many packages you had, it will cost it out for you. So like if you ever lost a freezer or something, you would know exactly how much money was missed. Like if your freezer went down or your fridge went out, you would know exactly how much money by the items based in your fridge, you would know how much money that you lost. So you can cost it out. It's not required. A lot of states require that you cost it. We're just requiring that you tell us how much you have. Again, this is unopened on hand. We tried to make it easier. That way you don't have to list every single thing in your kitchen, just the things that you have in your kitchen that are unopened and on hand. And it is done by category, like meat alternate, grain, bread, fruit, and vegetable. Then on the back side, we have milk and formula, and then infant food. So again, some of you, like the adults, we won't put formula on there. I think what I do on the adult side and on the at-risk, it says like condiments and extra. It's that way now. I had to update that. And then you do not have to put the condiments or extra foods. So say you buy donuts, it's an extra food. It's not allowable on Cacfp, but you still want to buy donuts for people. You can still put your extras on there, and then any Cacfp related supplies, that would be like, your foil and stuff like that. I'm gonna make myself a quick note to make sure I'm looking at a couple of items. So again, inventory is now required. We have some new forms that we added to all of our manuals. And one of those forms is the inventory form. Again, these are all in interactive as well. We also have the meal count worksheet that we changed up from infants and adults. For infants and children. We have the claim revision form. So if you need to revise any of your claims, you can definitely do that. You have to fill out that form. We have to have the reason why you're revising it. It's not that big of a deal. If you do, we just have to have the explanation and documentation. Again, we also put the notification letter in there, so that way you know what you're going to be reviewed on. And the reason we have, we do have, again, the adult daycare, at risk, in the center manual. We're going to keep it that way. It's been nice because people are not getting as confused. We have a lot of centers that just go to the back. They had pull adult stuff, but we did make the notification letter. It's geared for adults. Like before, it was very generic for everybody. And the one that we send out, we have one that we send out every year. It is for everybody, but this one is what is specifically to you. Now, one other thing that we did add to the forms is we added this little section called form completed by. Sorry, I'm making a quick little note. Now, it doesn't have to be signed. We're not asking for a signature, but what we do need is we just need to know who filled out the form. Again, it doesn't have to be signed. It can be printed. It is in the interactive forms. It's also in all of our forms online, but in the manual, not the manual. But the reason why is we may have a question on something, and we need to know who do we go talk to about it. That's the purpose of this. Is we just need to know who to talk to. No signature. It's just who do we talk to if we have a question about that form? Because at some places it's multiple people filling out multiple forms. Now, this is some additional information on the review. Is we will, if you're a nonprofit entity, we will ask to see board minutes in schools. Let me find out more about that on my list. We need to see, so there has to be program oversight for Cacfp. And we have to see that the board is talking about the Cacfp program to make sure that they are doing oversight. So I'll find out about schools when it comes to that. But if you are a regular nonprofit entity, we do need to see board meeting minutes on your nonprofits. It's something that we look at with the VCA as well. We also check for food safety. We also need to see where your past 3 years records are. So you keep past 3 years records plus current year. Unless you can keep longer than that if you would like. We will want to see your Title 20 or Title 19. So when we talk about swiping in, that's Title 19 for adult daycares, and it's Title 20 is for regular daycare centers. If you outsource your food, if you have someone that brings you food every day, you have a contract with them, we need to see that contract. So a lot of our adult daycares, and I'll ask this question here momentarily, is if like every day, a lot of schools will also contract with Head Starts, and every day they'll bring food, like today's spaghetti, and they tell you how to serve it. But every day they deliver food that you just serve it. They tell you how much and they tell you what they brought you. An adult daycare center, we also will need to see your individual plan and care for your individual plan of care and your group plan, because you have to have certain activities and stuff like that for adult days. Now, just a reminder with claiming, after 60 days, a claim cannot be paid. So make sure you get it in after you have 60 days to do so. A payment notice should be kept on file. Once we pay you, we will send a payment notice, but it comes in online. So if you go back to your claim summary, if you go to the bottom, once we pay you, we'll say print payment notice. It won't show up until after we pay you. Any claim that again needs a revision, you need to send us that claim revision form. And then we also have a monthly record keeping checklist in the manual. And again, I did update it to be specific to each program. So again, if you're not sure what you need to have on file every month, then we have the monthly record keeping checklist. Okay, training and civil rights. Now, everybody who participates in Cacfp has to have a designated trainer. You decide who it is. We do not do that. It can be multiple people, but this trainer does have to conduct training every year. And it can be in a group. It can be one-on-one. It doesn't have to be for everybody. You can literally do one-on-one training, but anytime you do even one-on-one training, you do need to tell us the date, the agenda, what you talked about, and have whoever was there to sign it. You need to keep these sheets, these training sheets. We have a lot of people that do like a professional development day and usually do it all in one day. And you can, again, definitely do that. Now, it is not required that all staff be trained on all topics except for civil rights. I have a school on here. So we have civil rights for Cacfp and we have civil rights for schools. If a school has done civil rights with us, they do not have to do it again. There's a little bit of a difference in Cacfp and school, not that much, but you only have to take civil rights training once. You can take it either side. We do the schools in July, and we usually do civil rights training either end of September or October 1. So as long as you have civil rights, it does not have to be, you don't have to take it both. You don't have to take it twice. You only have to take it one time per year. All trainings do have to be completed by September 30th of each year. So you have from October 1st to September 30th. The topics must include Cacfp meal patterns, the reimbursement system, accurate meal counts, claim submission, claim review process, record keeping, and civil rights. And again, maybe everybody hears civil rights. I mean, everybody has to have civil rights, but maybe everybody hears record keeping and everybody hears accurate meal counts and Cacfp meal patterns. But maybe you only have one person that's your backup to do the claim. So they're the only person that you talk to: claim submission, claim review process, and maybe reimbursement system. You can do it that way as well. We just have to see that those topics, somebody discussed those topics with another person. But again, civil rights does need to be for everybody. Now, we as a state agency have started requiring training. There's been a lot of reasons for this. Some of it is because we've had a lot of, in the last couple of years, we've had some really bad reviews. We've had a lot of process changes. And there's just been some things, like we'll go out to do a review and we'll say, well, we changed this 8 years ago. And they'll be like, well, I've never been to training. So that's one reason why we started doing it. But we do require training for a new center coming onto the program, because it just makes it helpful if you hear it once, and then when your program specialist comes back out, you hear it again. It just helps a lot. If you're seriously deficient, again, meaning that your review had a lot of errors in it, it went over the threshold of limits. So then you're recalled what's called SD. If you're SD, then you are required to come to training, and your program specialist will tell you which trainings to attend, but you have 60 days from the exit conference. If you do not attend the training required, then you will be terminated from the program because it is part of your corrective action. And then something that we started last year is if you are wanting to renew your application. So if you've been on the program for 10 years and you want to renew that application with us, then you have to attend annual training, which, to be honest, I was doing some research for a course that we want to do. and on the CACFP side eventually. And a lot of them had required training for renewing. So it was something new. But we're just a state that never required it before. Now, again, you have to register in the training calendar. You have until 9 o'clock tonight to do so. If you are not, again, try to remember the name logging in on Zoom must match the registration. So again, if you're logged in as Bob Smith, but your name is Betty Sue on the training calendar, we're not going to know Tom Smith or Bob Smith and Betty Sue are the same person. So just make sure you can go in and update that. It also tells you what all of our live trainings that we do, whether in person or Zoom. We did in person last September. We'll be doing that again this year. Our program specialists are working on their rooms right now. So we will be having live trainings again. We also have OSDE Connect, which is our self-paced trainings. Every training that we do, like this training is available. If you're new, they really want you to come to a live training in case you have questions. But if you do, or if you have somebody that needs to take meal patterns or infant meals, or we don't do it anymore, but we had an ounce equivalent training. It's a 30-minute training. You can do it self-paced with OSDE Connect. Just go out to the resource library again under training and workshops, and there's the instructions there for all of that. Civil rights, everything is underneath that section. We also have some really neat additional items. We have Team Nutrition, that's with USDA. They do a webinar on the third Thursday of the month, and this is the link for that. We have the Institute of Child Nutrition, or ICN. And ICN, they do some live webinars. They also do a lot of self-paced. They cover any topic you can fathom over any child nutrition program imaginable. So, like for instance, they did a food buying guide training, and I had Sherry go out there and look at it for me. And it was like a 6-hour training. So we created a 1-hour training and to kind of, so anyway, they may have some other trainings that are they have some 1 hours. They have some that are like 6 hour. They have 12-hour. They offer food safety. They offer a lot of courses, but we offer classes too, but we'll try not to make them the same or make maybe different hours. Something that we do have new that just started a couple months ago is Cooking for Kids. We've always had Cooking for Kids for our school side, but we just added it to our daycare side. So what Cooking for Kids does is they do hands-on training. So what you'll do, I've done with the school, it's been a long time ago. It's probably been since 2012 since we went to one of those. And with the culinary, what they do is you go in and you do like recipes, they go over knife skills, they'll go over food safety, they'll give you the recipes, they talk about improved management time skills. It's a really, really neat course. These are all the places that you can go to have it. It is, again, in person. They usually give you a lot of neat things. Like when I did it in 2012, I got a cutting board, a knife, I think an apron. They'll also give you some items. So space is very limited, but you can go here to sign your cook up. It'd be very great for them. Okay, very good question. So we have a child that only drinks our soy milk at every meal, but with all his allergies, mom brings all the food. How do we claim the milk, or can we? You cannot claim anything. You claim meals by, they have to have all food components and all the quantity. So because you're not, and the center has to pay for it, but because you're not paying for the food, you can't claim any of the meal. So they're just drinking the milk, but you cannot claim anything. Now, what you can do is if other kids are drinking the soy milk, you can definitely charge off the milk to CACFP because it is used for CACFP, but you cannot claim that child. That'd be your child that you would put on your roster and put NP for not participating in the program, because you can't claim that person since the parent is bringing all the food. So I hope that answers the question. So again, all staff must be trained on civil rights, and here's where you go to find that information. And again, with civil rights, if you send anything outside of your center, meaning like menus or anything that has to do with CACFP, now our forms all have the non-discrimination statement on there, but if you're like sending menus home, or if your menus are posted online, they need to have the non-discrimination statement on it. Everybody does have to have an Injustice for All poster posted. It just needs to be in a visible location. You all must have procedures for filing a civil rights complaint for CACFP, and you do. It is in the resource library and it is also in your manual. And if anybody does have a civil rights complaint, it has to be for CACFP. It has to be based on race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. USDA, I think there's actually 14 things on civil rights, but USDA only recognizes these 6 because this is the only 6 that apply to their program. This is the non-discrimination statement. It's a 2 pages that we have. Again, if you have any menus that you send home, this needs to be on there. You can copy and paste it from the manual. So you can just go to that page and then you can copy and paste it onto your, and you can shrink it down as small as you need it to be to where you can't even tell what it is. Ask schools, if you, or even go to a school, go to their website, and they'll have the non-discrimination statement yay big on their menus. You can barely read it. It just has to be on there. If you were not familiar, this is what the Injustice for All poster looks like. You have one of these and it needs to be in a visible location. Something else that has new is it's no longer allowed to report a child's race by visual observation. And that includes, like with us too, we used to do that when we're there. A child can be identified as multiracial. It is suggested for the family to self-report. So they are, you know, a lot of them don't, but they can self-report on the application. And again, with the new CACFP enrollment form, we do have civil rights. We have race and ethnic information out there, so you can give it to them. A CNCAP enrollment form, again, we have that. It's in center and general forms. It's not required for the parent to fill out, but it is very helpful. We are still waiting on more guidance, but you just need to have another way. Like, since everybody I have on here, they take an application. Like at risk doesn't have to take applications, so they may want to do their own form. But again, everybody else here takes applications either with the school, either with the daycare, the adult daycare. So you guys have a way of a parent to fill that information out to self-report. And we're going to quickly go over procurement. I just go over the highlights of procurement. I do a full procurement training. I did one in January. I do about 2 or 3 a year. I'm trying to think of the next one I might do. It's more about the whole procurement process, but this is just quickly in what most of our centers do. So what procurement is when it's a purchasing transaction, and it must be done in a manner that provides full and open competition. It doesn't matter. It's for all federal funds that have to follow federal procurement. My mom works for the FAA, which is under the Department of Transportation. We work under USDA. We all have to follow the same procurement rules. Now, we have special rules because of food, like with Buy American, that you guys don't have to do, but schools do. But if you're getting federal funds in general, you have to procure it all using federal procurement standards. So you have to have a procurement plan. We have a procurement plan prototype that you can adopt. We have a small one. It says procurement plan for centers. I think it's about 3 pages. We have one in there if you're a larger entity called formal. And a school, I would tell a school to keep doing what you're doing with your procurement stuff. With a school, schools have an AR and a special procurement review. USDA wants to do the same with CACFP, and we're really hoping they don't do that. That means you'd be getting 2 reviews, not just 1. But we're hoping that they won't do that with the CACFP side. But our procurement plan has everything that you need in it. It follows USDA guidelines. But if you want to create your own, it does have to have a method of procurement. It has to have code of conduct, minority firms, women business, a statement regarding that information, and then a chart of procedures. Now, the formal one, the big one, the one the schools use, the chart of procedures is included in that. The chart of procedures is not included in the one that we have for the small centers, but you will see it says chart of procedures. You just print that out and then fill it out. It's an easy form, the chart of procedures. Just go into the manual, and it has an example in the manual, and it will help you fill that out. The procurement plan, you still need to put your center name on it, and there's a couple of questions throughout that you do need to answer. So it's not just a print it out and you're done. You have to answer. There's like 4 questions you have to answer within the document. So it's not bad at all. Most of the time, you're going to use 2 types of methods, which is the informal, micro or small purchase. you have to be really big or be spending over $250,000 to do the formal. And I will briefly just touch on what that is here in a moment. Now, people look at the dollar amount and they're like, that's what I do. And I'm like, well, that's not the case. Just because you may spend under $10,000 in a transaction or you spend under $250,000, you can still do formal. I'm just going to tell you the difference between micro purchasing and small purchase. People are like, well, that's what I do, so I do micro purchasing. So people get confused. What micro purchasing is, it means you're buying your CACFP supplies from multiple vendors and you don't check prices at all. You're just buying, but the price is reasonable. It's a reasonable price and you're not checking prices. So what this might mean is you shop at Walmart, you shop at Crest, you shop a little bit at Restaurant Depot, you buy your paper from Staples, you get supplies from Amazon, you buy maybe your milk from Highland. You're buying from a lot of people, that you're spreading the wealth. You're buying all of your CACFP stuff from multiple people. But most of you are checking prices. If you check prices at all, if you can tell me that Sam's milk is $3.50 and Crest milk is $3.25, you just did small purchase. And clearly it's been a while since I've been out. And I don't buy milk very often, so I think I'm probably way off on my milk prices right now, especially with the inflation. But if you check prices at all, you're doing small purchase. Another thing that people might do is, let's say that you're from a small town and you only buy at Walmart because Walmart's the cheaper and it's close. So you only buy from one. What are you supposed to do? Because you're not doing micro purchasing, but you're also not really doing small purchase because you have to check prices. Well, at small purchase, you have to do one or the other. You don't have a choice. So if you're doing small purchase and say you're only buying from Walmart, I'm from a small town. And so the closest grocery store, there's two, there's a Walmart and there's a United from my hometown. They're both the same distance apart. But I shop at Walmart because it's cheaper. Well, you need to tell us that it's cheaper. You got to show us. You got to do just at least once a year, you have to check prices. So I actually, while we were off for the snow, when we were having weather, I created a form to help you if you are only going to one place. You also do not have to shop at, even though you check prices. Maybe you're in the city and you check between Crest and Walmart, but you choose to shop at Walmart, even though Crest is overall cheaper. You can shop from Walmart, even though Crest is cheaper. You just have to tell us why. So what I did was I created this form, and this form is in the it's in the resource library, and for schools, it's in other documents as well. What you can do is you tell us the name of your center, and then every year, just once a year, write down the top 50. It's kind of broken off. Tell us the top 15 items that you buy at your center. So here, ground beef in a 3-pound roll, 1% milk in a gallon, whole milk, Kix Berry in a 32-ounce box, string cheese, store brand, 24 ounces. Write this down. And then what you do is you go to one store and you write down the prices. You go to another store and write down the prices. And you only have to do this like once a year. And then, like, as you can see here, discount grocery was more expensive. IGA was the cheaper one. And then you just tell us the day that you go check the prices. And then underneath it, you tell us what store you selected. And if you selected, say you selected discount grocery, then in the box, you tell us why. Maybe it's closer. Maybe you would spend more in gas going to IGA than you would go into discount grocery. Maybe discount grocery is 10 miles away and IGA is 30 miles away. Maybe discount grocery has a grocery pickup option and you're choosing that because of the labor. You're not there all day shopping. So we have this form that you can use. You only have to do it however many times you're telling us that you're checking prices. A lot of times it's going to be once a year, but this is something I've shown the consultants this, or your program specialist. So this is something that you can use to help you with your procurement. So you're following procurement standards and you have documentation. Again, this is just the difference between micro purchasing and small purchase. If you're using a vendor like Cisco, Benny Keith, US Food, or Tankersley, you need to be doing small purchase. You have to check prices because you're really just buying from them. Now, you may have an emergency type purchase, like they didn't have hot dog buns that day. You run to the grocery store. That's more of an emergency purchase. It would kind of fall under micro purchasing. But if you use a vendor, you just need to send what you want to buy to 2 vendors. They don't have to send it back to you. That's only You only just have to send it out to 2 vendors, and if they send it back, if they don't, that's fine, but that's just the requirement. Now, okay, formal procurement is anything over $250,000. You have to have specifications. That's what you send out to the vendors, and of telling them what you want to purchase. Like what you just saw, what I did on this form, this is specifications. It's telling them what I want to purchase, exactly what I want to purchase. You're not supposed to put brand name on there though. You can put just Saltine 16-ounce box. If there is a brand that you really like, let's say you like the Bar S beef hot dogs and you're sending it to a vendor, you have to put Bar S equal to or better than, because not every vendor may have Bar S hot dogs, but they may have something that tastes equally as good. This is what a specification is specifying what you want to purchase. So again, you have to have specifications. And even if you use a vendor under small purchase, you need to have specifications. But formally, you have to put an advertisement in the paper. You have to have a sealed bid opening. You have to have a bid opening. You have to do all these items that I don't really talk about here. There's 2 types, which is a sealed bid where you base the award only on price. The other one is an RFP that is price is a primary factor, but it's not the sole factor. Okay, I'm going to ask a couple of quick questions because we might be able to, going to ask a couple of poll questions here. Oops, I forgot to stop sharing that. If it will let me. Okay, here we go. Does anybody in here do contract meals? I'm not talking food service management company for school. I'm talking that every day somebody brings you hot meals and you serve it out to your kids. You have an agreement that these people, you pay them to bring you food to serve your meals. Okay, I thought I might. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go over this because we do have somebody that does have their meals. They do have a contract for meals. They bring it in. So who does your meals? Who brings it in? If it's not a district or a vendor, who provides your meals? If you don't mind putting it in the chat, like you don't have to tell me the name of it. You can just tell me it's like a vendor. Because I don't know who other is, because most people that do contract, they contract meals with a school district, they contract meals with the vendor or with the technology center. Okay. So that's considered a vendor. I'll let you know. So that is actually considered a vendor. So that perfect. Okay. So if you are contracting, so one that you can contract for, if you contract for services, any type of service and you're using child nutrition funds, we have to have a contract. If it's for services, you have to create a contract, send it to us, we approve it, and then you can go out on bid, and that's for services. Now, the next thing that we talk about is contracting for food. So if you have you're with a vendor, so you would do the agreement to furnish food other than a school, because you do it with the vendor. So we have to have that every single year, and the state agency has to get a copy. So if what happens is I'll go through what the process is. So they're a vendor, not a school. So what happens is every day when they bring you food, they have to be filling out this contract meal delivery receipt form, and I'll show you what that looks like. That should be coming with the food. So they bring you the food, they bring you the contract meal delivery receipt telling you what food they brought that day and how to serve it out. You keep all those forms. Because if you're missing that, that's your menu as served form. That's telling us what you fed for that day. So what happens is they give you that form, you keep it on file for your reviews. At the end of the month, that vendor is going to bill you for food, and you turn around and you claim meals with us for reimbursement. So that's how the process works. Now, something to make sure that you're aware of is, I'm not sure how you do this. I had one entity that I'll kind of describe. This is what they did. So it was a facility that contracted with the school district. And what they did was this place was licensed for 25 kids, and they had 25 kids enrolled. So what they did was every breakfast, they brought 25 meals. And then they told this daycare center to call them up by 9 o'clock in the morning to tell them how much is there for lunch. So for this example, they brought 25 meals, and then they called them and said, hey, we only have 18 kids today. So they would only bring them around 18 meals for lunch. Well, here's what happens. They're going to bill you for 25 meals because that's how many they gave you at breakfast. But at breakfast, you only had 18 kids. You cannot claim for reimbursement 25 meals when you had 18 kids in care. Remember when I talked about earlier, the point of service. The point of service is when that child eats a meal. So you had 7 meals that they were not claimable meals because there was not a participant eating them. Now, I'm not saying you guys didn't eat them, like you just let your teachers have them, but you cannot claim 25 meals because you only had 18 kids there and you only fed 18 kids. So just a reminder, even though they may give you more meals, you cannot claim how many meals they brought you. You claim based on children that ate a meal. And this is the contract delivery receipt. This is the form that's required that they send you every day. So if this is not what they're sending you, you can send me privately and I can talk to you about it. But they are to send, this is in the contract that you were to send to them. This is in the contract. They have to send this to you. You might be providing the milk. Maybe they're giving you the milk, but they have to tell you what they're giving you. They have to give you CN labels if you need them. They have to tell you how the quantity. They have to tell you all that stuff. It is to be signed by the person that's bringing you the food or whoever has the food. It has to be signed by them, and it has to be signed by the director or whoever, someone at the center, the cook, somebody at the center verifying everything that they brought. So I'm going to talk about that because it's not with a public school. Okay, so let me ask another quick poll question. We're getting close to the end here. This is the one that we may have people on, we may not. Do we have anybody in here that does have infants? Okay. I'll go ahead and end the poll because we already have at least one yes. And then I'm going to quickly ask you for one more poll question. So this should be the end of the poll questions. Are you multi-sited? Do you have one agreement number and multiple centers or multiple eating sites underneath that? Okay. Okay, I do. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to finish out with everything that's in here. It just, again, gives me a good idea of who my audience is, because why talk about it if you don't do it? Okay, so infant meals. If you don't do infant meals, you can take like a quick 5-minute little breather. So infants, if you're on CACFP and you have infants at your center, you're required to offer access to the program. If you're also on the program, you also need to have at least one type of iron fortified formula that's FDA approved that you have for your infants. So you can choose, like I'm going to choose Gerber Good Start iron fortified formula. That's what you're keeping on hand. As a center, you're required to keep at least one type of formula on hand. Infants, when we talk about infants, they're from birth to 1 year of age. A parent, and this is actually for all grade groups, this is not just for infants, but a parent is able to bring one component of the reimbursable meal per child. And I talked more about that in the afternoon session, but a parent can bring, so a lot of times a parent's going to bring the formula or breast milk. So a parent can bring one item, but everything else the center has to pay for. Also, infants are what we call feed on demand. So in your application and agreement, you tell us the start time and the end time of when you feed kids, and you cannot feed kids outside that time. If you do, you can't claim the meal. Infants do not fall into that. Infants can eat at any time of the day. It does not matter. So we have 2 age groups when it comes to infants. We have birth to 5 months and we have 6 months to 11 months. Both require iron fortified formula and breast milk or a combination of both. They cannot have milk under the age of 1. Something else I'm going to quickly tell you is I do an infant meal training every other month. I should be having it, I think, in April. I think I'm having it in April, but it's an hour and a half, and it's close to an hour and a half, but it's geared to like teachers or people, and it just goes more in depth with infants. Actually, I'm doing it the 24th of this month. So if you're interested, I do have a more in-depth infant training on the 24th. So just kind of an FYI for that. It's out in the training calendar, and I usually do it in the afternoon, like at 1. I will be doing it. Actually, I'll be doing it at 10 a.m. on the 24th that day. I have another training. I do multi-sided in the afternoon that day. So I will be doing the infant formula if you are interested in that. Again, breast milk or infant formula is the only component required for those 5 months and under. And they need to have at least 4 to 6 fluid ounces of expressed breast milk or infant formula. Now, the 6 through 11-month-old, they need to have a minimum of 6 to 8 ounces of breast milk or formula at breakfast and lunch. At snack, it does drop down to 2 to 4, but they do have to have formula with every meal. Foods from all components are to be offered when the infant is developmentally ready. You may have infants that are developmentally ready before 6 months of age, and you are to feed them once a child is developmentally ready. You're always claiming them. So even if they start eating at 4 months of age, you start to claim them. You claim them, but you have to start marking down what they are eating. So infant meals, this is just a quick highlight of infants. I do go in more depth into my training, but infants, again, can be breastfed on site and the meal can be reimbursed. Each component must be served once the infant is eating that component. Now, we do understand that like they may try peaches for 3 days and then it's not messing with them kind of, so that we stop the peaches, we're going to do vegetable. Now, we understand when they were first learning to eat that they're going to be doing a lot of switching, or they'll start and stop. We understand that. But once they are starting to eat, you give them it. And then once they are eating everything, then you start giving them everything. There is in the past on the fruit and vegetable at snack, it is required. Once they start eating fruit and vegetable on a regular basis, it is required at snack. So infant cereal can be served at all meals. It is required to be served at breakfast and lunch before any other grain is allowed to be served. So if you have an 11-month-old and you have a pancake, you can't just give them the pancake. They have to have infant cereal before you can have the pancake to claim the meal. Now, some of the stuff I have, if you go to the infant section in the resource library, and I think we have handouts. I don't think Sherry sent the handouts to you. The handouts are in the resource library under infants, but I have a little question and answer of there's like 3 or 4 questions that are very popular that this covers. It tells you yes and no, and I think it was in the handouts as well. So bread, crackers, and ready-to-eat breakfast cereals are only allowed at snack. Only infant cereal at breakfast and lunch, but you can do these at snack. And then there are sugar requirements, and the sugar requirements for yogurt and sugar are for all ages, and that does include infants, and they cannot have grain-based desserts like cookies or anything like that. So this is just a really quick into the road meal service. So because of COVID, I don't have a head start on here. They're required to do it, but we have 2 types of service, which is called pre-plated or straight serve, and then family style. So if you do straight serve, that means all components and the minimum quantity that they are required to have must be on the plate when they serve it. What family style is the amount of food for every child or every adult that's participating is in the bowl, but they can serve themselves. The infants or the adults serve themselves. It can be supervised, but family style, it's required for 3 stars, required for Head Start. Again, they did back off on this because of COVID, but check with your health department first if before you go back to doing it. Yeah, check them first if you're not a 3-star or Head Start or another entity that requires family style. But again, family style, all the food is in the bowl, but the kids and the parents serve themselves. Now, when it's straight serve, when somebody else is putting the food on the plate, all the required components and all the quantity has to be on the plate. If it is family style, everybody's full portion is in the bowl and the kids can take as much as they want. Like maybe they don't want it. They can actually refuse it. It doesn't have to be on the plate because it's in the bowl. Their portion size is in the bowl. But we do encourage them to at least take a little bit. We call it a thank you bite. Actively encourage children and adults to take the full serving. Now, I will tell you, we have the Head Starts are required. They make the kids take the full required amount. It's part of Head Start. It's a requirement. But on our program, just for us, if you're not acquired with a Head Start, they don't have to put it on their plate because their portion is in the bowl and you can't reserve what was put out in the bowl that has to be discarded. Meals, again, are reimbursable as long as all the food components are offered and the full amount in the bowl. So just again, a brief little synopsis of what may cause us to cause it that we would take back money for food is if you serve. So one has 1 meal a day. So if you have 1 meal a day, it has to be whole grain rich. And if you have more than 1 meal per day, then one of those has to be whole grain rich. At least you have to provide at least one whole grain item at 1 meal service. It's not per child, it's per meal service. You cannot serve juice more than once a day. You can only serve it maximum 1 time. You cannot serve a grain-based dessert, which is like cookies, Nutri-Grain bar, granola bar. That is a grain-based dessert. If you don't serve enough food, if you serve an item that is not found in the food buying guide, it does not have a CN label or does not have a product formulation statement. If a label for whole grain rich food, we have to have labels to see that that you served a whole wheat bread. We have to have labels for your yogurt, for your cereal, and any deli meat that you buy from the store, because a lot of deli meats don't meet requirements. But the yogurt and cereal, we have to make sure it doesn't have too much sugar. And cereal, we're going to check to see if it's maybe whole grain, if that's your whole grain item. If you do not list your components or quantities on your forms to let us know how much you serve, or if you're missing any of those contract meal delivery receipts. And then quickly, we're going to talk about multi-sided. Multi-sided, this is if you have multiple sites, multiple eating sites, make sure that you're monitoring them at least 3 times per year. The most common method is the 2 unannounced and 1 announced. And again, I do a multi-sided training. We go more in depth on everything. And it's about, again, another hour-and-a-half training. And it will be on the same day that on March 24th at 1 p.m. Again, you have to have an expenditure worksheet, 1 per site. You're only allowed, if you're multi-sided for the admin labor, you're only allowed to charge off up to 15% of the total reimbursement for the year. There's a question in your application and agreement that says, how much reimbursement do you think you're going to get? And you fill that out, and then you can only charge off 15% of that amount. And then again, for that building for the future that I showed you earlier, we have to have a copy of that before we can approve your application. Again, if you want to add a site, you need to fill out, we have instructions, step-by-step instructions. So there's an adding site for at-risk and an adding new site for CACFP. It's out in the resource library under multi-sided. So you can go out there and look at that and make sure that you have everything in. And then policies and procedures, the only time you have to submit, you have to have policies and procedures. We have prototypes in the resource library that you can use. We only have to have these 1 time unless you make changes. So maybe you make changes in 5 years from now, then we'll need it updated. But we have to have job descriptions. And so for this year only, we were requiring director, monitor, and cook, but we're going to need it eventually for anybody that has CACFP duties. We have to have your site policies, your sponsoring organization policies, your SD policies, and appeal procedures. And I'm not going to go much into that because we don't have anybody new on. So you're already on the program. So we've already collected this from you now. But the policies and procedures were new this year. It was actually supposed to always be done. We've done it on our other program, but we didn't do it on regular CACFP. So this is the end. Thank you guys for being there. I did forget to go over with my adult daycare offer versus serve, which is allowed. We do have offer versus serve information. I thought it was in here. I need to I know why it's not in here. It's because it's in this afternoon's class. So I do have offer versus serve. It's in the afternoon. Never mind. I didn't forget anything. I'm just getting very confused in what I have in what course. So If you need your blanks, your blank pages, you can photocopy them. It's on page 213 or on page 179 of the adult daycare. The S pages, you can go there for your sponsor pages. That's another little section for those that are multi-sided. And then again, all of our forms you can also find in the resource library, again, in the manual, or you can look under the worksheet section or center forms. So that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for being with me today. I hope you guys learned something. I'm going to stick around for some questions. Just a reminder to make sure that you are in the resource library, or that you guys have your information in the training calendar so you receive credit for that. I believe Sherry should get this up by tomorrow at the latest. So again, if you guys need anything, we're here to help. If there's anything I can do, I will be on for a few minutes, but you guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Have a very good, it's going to get warmer. It was nice this past weekend, but it will get warmer next week. I'm so excited. So have a great one. Bye.